Hey family, it's been a minute, but my name is Celeste, and today I'm going to be making you this clam chowder recipe. We're starting off with some potatoes. I used too many potatoes, so only use like 6. Recipe in the description box. Dulse granules, which gives you a seafood type flavor. We have this Old Bay dupe I have. We have minced garlic, some vegetable bouillon, some thyme. Yes indeed. The dried kind. We have some extra virgin olive oil, some salt, some pepper back there, sneaking up back there. I have 2 types of mushrooms. I have the king oyster mushrooms here. Delicious. My first time using those. Loved it. Oh yeah, the pepper, of course. We have some regular oyster mushrooms. We have some cashews soaking in some water. We have some vegan butter here. Yes. And a small onion and some celery. And we have some wine. The recipe calls for some dry wine. So I grabbed this dry Riesling. I don't know how to pronounce that. I've always struggled. But those are the ingredients. I'm missing a couple, but I'll tell them later. And it'll be in the description. So we're going to start off with making some coconut cream, which is we soaked our cashews, and now I'm gonna drain them and put them in a blender with some vegan milk. I used cashew milk, unsweetened, and it calls for 3/4 cup of cashews and a cup of cashew milk or vegan milk, whichever one you prefer. And you're gonna blend it until it's nice and smooth, nice and creamy, nice and delicious. And that's gonna be a part of our recipe for later to make the clam chowder creamy and delicious. You feel me? And so that's what it's looking like. Very smooth, not chunky whatsoever. And so that's out of the way. We'll use that later. So I cut up my produce here, the oyster mushrooms, the potatoes. I left the skins on because I like the texture, but you can do whatever you want. So we're going in with our king oyster mushrooms first because I feel like they take a little longer to cook. And I put olive oil and a little butter in the pan. I forgot to turn the camera on for that. But also we're going to put a little bit of salt in the did I call it a pan? In the pot as well. And we're going to stir it up, and that's going to excrete some of the liquid. Get that going because we want to make sure that the liquid is kind of out of the mushrooms as it cooks, and you can see it here. It's already expelling some liquid. It's kind of steamy, ooh, but there you can see the liquid coming out. And I'm gonna cook those for like a couple minutes while it's doing its thing, and then I'm going to add in our oyster mushrooms, and they're just cut or diced kind of fine, little bite-sized pieces, if you will, to give it like that's these mushrooms are our clam for our vegan clam chowder. I could call it mushroom chowder, but I'm gonna need y'all to get the vision. So, and there's all that liquid. We're going to cook that until the liquid is mostly gone. And so you gotta just pay attention to it. Kind of happens kind of quick. Not really. You don't have to like stand over it and just like watch it intensely, but do keep an eye on it. And then a dash of soy sauce, which I forgot to add to the ingredients, but again, everything is going to be in the description. So I added a dash of the soy sauce, and that's going to give the mushrooms a little more flavor. Yes. And here you can see that the liquid is basically gone. So next I'm adding in my garlic, my minced garlic. Added in, recipe calls for 2 to 3 cloves, but I use minced garlic, so I don't know how much that is. I don't know. So I just, winged it. Is that a word? Winged it. You get it. I just did what I needed to do, what felt right in my spirit. And so we're going to cook that for a little bit. Then you're going to take that out of the pot, whatever you're using, pot. and set that aside. That's what it looks like. It shrunk down quite a bit, as you can see. So that's why I used a lot of mushrooms, because they be shrinking. That's like spinach, it'd be shrinking. So I'm adding in a little more olive oil, and we're going to saute some onions here. And we're going to saute those until they are translucent, basically, or at least starting to be translucent. So that doesn't take too long. Only a couple minutes till they start losing their color. And as you can see, the bottom of the pan is getting those nice bits. Yes, you don't have to worry about those. That'll be taken care of when we put our liquid in. And then I'm going to add some celery that I sliced up. 2 stalks of celery is what I used. I used the whole onion that I showed, and then 2 stalks of celery. And we're going to cook those down until they're soft. Nice and soft, because I don't want crunchy veggies in my chowder. Like, what? I mean, that's not a bad thing. If you like chunky vegetables in your chowder, more power to you. I didn't mean to be insulting, but I don't want it. So that's what we're looking like now. When it's at this point, I'm going to add in some thyme, some lovely thyme. And then the recipe calls for more garlic, and I'm like, I put a lot of garlic, so let me just put some garlic powder in, switch it up a little bit, do a little something, a little shum. So we're going to stir that in, cook that for a little bit as well, get that nice and incorporated, and then we're going to add in our wine. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups of wine, so that's what I'm doing. I'm cooking 1.5 cups of wine, and at this point, the bits at the bottom, gone. Not even a problem. They're up. They added more flavor to our delicious stock, I guess, that we're making. And so you're going to cook this wine down till the alcohol cooks out. If you don't want to use wine, please don't. You can use like a veggie broth or whatever suits your fancy. Whatever suits your fancy. I've just never cooked with wine, so I was like excited to try it. So you're going to cook it. When it simmers, you're going to turn the heat down a little bit to medium and cook for like 3 to 5 minutes and stir it fairly often. And it's going to look a little bit like this. Veggies are going to lose even more color. And yeah, that's how I know we're done. Then the recipe says to sprinkle 4 tablespoons of flour. I don't like sprinkling dry flour or cornstarch on my stuff because then I get chunks. So I made a little slurry with some water, and I'm just adding that into my pot. And you're basically going to make a little gravy, thicken up this wine, onion, celery mix a little bit so that it gets nice and thick later for our chowder. We like a nice hearty, thick, creamy chowder. So that's what this is for. If you don't want to use flour, you can use cornstarch. That is completely fine. Not a problem. Like I said, I don't like the chunks, so I made the little slurry. But you're going to cook this for about a minute. Make sure you cook in your flour down. And yeah, so that's that on that. Delicious. Then we're going to add in our veggie stock broth, the bouillon. I just added 4 cups of water, 4 tablespoons of bouillon. It made it this color. If you don't want it this color, maybe not use. If you wanted that traditional white clam chowder color, maybe use like a boxed veggie broth or something that's a little lighter in color, but I didn't mind it. It's fine. I added in my dulse flakes. I called for 2 teaspoons. That ain't enough for me. I'm gonna just do what I gotta do, make it do what it do, just listen to your ancestors. You all hear that a lot. That's what you do. You add bay leaves and then our Old Bay dupe, or Old Bay, whichever you want, which also adds a little color. So if you don't want that reddish brownish color, don't add that. You can just do salt and pepper. It's fine. I'm not upset. I'm not offended. And I also added a small, like a teaspoon of sugar, because I don't have Worcestershire sauce, and so I needed something. So we stirred that together, incorporated it, and now I'm adding my potatoes. Again, I added a little too much, just a little bit. I like potatoes though, so it came out very potatoey, but you can use like 6. I use like 8. You can use 6. We're going to let that do its thing, check on it often, but I cooked it for like 10 to 15 minutes or until the potatoes were fork tender, as you see here. If you can stick a fork in it without resistance, you are good. So now that that is done, because it's still gonna cook. We're not done yet, babes. We're not. You're gonna take out your bay leaves, like you see me doing here. You're gonna turn the heat down, and we're going to add in our cashew cream that we made earlier. So you'll see me doing that right here. Where am I? Oh, right here. We're adding in our cashew cream, and that's also supposed to thicken our soup a bit and make it very creamy, very delicious. So stir that in. It says stir it in slowly. I'm not sure why it needs to be slowly. Just put that thing in there. Put that thing in there. It's all good. And you can see it turning a creamier, lighter color from the cashew cream. So that's where it gets its, that's where it gets its creamy, chowdery-ness from. Yeah. So we're going to cook that down a little bit more. I'm adding in seasoning, more seasonings to taste. I'm adding pepper. I believe I added a little more salt as well, but I don't think I showed that for some reason. But taste it, see if you like it. Always taste as you go. Nothing wrong with that. You got to make sure it's good. You know what I'm saying? Then we're going to add in our mushrooms. We're adding our mushrooms right back in there. And we're going to cook it down again for an additional 3 to 5 minutes, making sure that everything is just flavored up, delicious, incorporated. And that does low-key look like clams. I'm not even gonna hold you. That look like clams to me. It looked like clams to me. I love clam chowder. So I really wanted to try a vegan one, to make a vegan one, because seafood was my jam. So that's why I had to make a vegan clam chowder. If you're offended by the use of the word clam in my chowder, I apologize. But it is what it is. I want people to know that that's what I'm trying to make, is a vegan clam chowder. Not a mushroom chowder, but like a vegan clam chowder. You feel me? You get it. So that is all, my friends. That is all, fam. Thank you for watching. This is the final result. It still had that like color to it. It wasn't like super white, super, like clam chowder. But it was delicious. So thank you for watching. I love you, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.